Brodes Media.
After reading a 75,382-page article on Joel Embiid, there's only one thing to do to calm me down and put me in a great headspace. Yup! Yup! That is smoke an outstanding Emilio cigar. You know what I was looking for? Old school roots. You know what I was looking for? New school attitude. You know what I was looking for? Something locally owned, third generation, and made at the Fabrico Veja Negra in Nicaragua. Oh, perfect! Perfect! There's only one cigar to smoke on planet Earth, and that is an Emilio cigar. I go to a family event. Hey, who wants an Emilio? I go to the golf course with the boys. Yo, who wants an Emilio? I go to my next door neighbor. Yo, here's an Emilio. Oh, dude, I love Emilios. Seriously. This is the greatest cigar that you will ever smoke. What you can do to get your hands on these is go to your local tobacco shop and say, hey, you guys have Emilio cigars? Or you can click the link down below in the description. Use promo code BRODES10 for 10% off your purchase. And it's just that simple. Make sure you join the Emilio Cigar family today. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. This Joel Embiid piece, it's just so complex, and there's so many different layers to it. So bear with me as we walk through all the lanes here. There are so many different paths. I guess we'll start with a very vanilla statement, even though it's well documented where I stand on Joel. I have always been a supporter of Joel Embiid. I appreciate Joel Embiid. He's not perfect. There are flaws, but I enjoy Joel Embiid. With that said, I've been very clear over the last few months that we have reached a breaking point, and I know financially they are tied at the hip, but because this organization has hit a wall as currently constructed, I would try and find ways to maneuver through and move past the rest of this Joel Embiid contract. I'm aware of how difficult that is. I understand how extreme that is. I would be willing to see if it was possible, just because I think this era is unfortunately not going to pan out. It has nothing to do with me thinking Joel Embiid is a stiff. I just don't think, unfortunately, the stars are going to align here. Okay, now with that said, let's get into the point of this piece. It's pretty clear. Joel Embiid wanted to get out his side of the story. The way I label it is, it's sort of like watching Joel Embiid crash out in real time, but it's justifiable to crash out based off of everything that he has gone through. And half of you may hear that and cringe because you hate the person Joel Embiid for some reason, and others are going to sympathize with him because, rightfully so, he has been going through a lot physically with the wear and tear on his body. And it's not because he ate Chick-fil-A at 22 and he liked Shirley Temples when he first got here at 20-something years old. It's because my man is 7'2" and you want him to be superhuman. Some 7-footers survive. Other 7-footers break down insanely and never reach their full potential because it's not supposed to be that level of workload for that large of a human. And that's why, more than anything else, the Joel Embiid experience has hit the wall that it did from a body level. He just can't stay upright. He's had 1 billion knee surgeries. Then he gets a knee surgery, and then he drops 50 in Game 3 against the Knicks. He drops 40 in Game 6 with the series on the line against the Knicks. Not a perfect player. We'll talk about his flaws. I even think there's flaws within some of the statements that he made within this article. So it's not just going to be one big love fest, and the only thing I'm going to do is defend him to the max, but I'm going to defend him more than not because I think it's so misguided to hate Embiid for being a loser, for being out of shape, for being a fraud, for being a criminal and stealing money and a thief and this and that. And it's just so out of touch with reality. It's not even funny. So again, I go back to Joel Embiid does this because he's almost at a point where he has to protect his image. And I get it because he is being dehumanized in a way. And I get it. It's got to be frustrating. Would I have done it? No, probably not. I probably would not have done this. But I don't think he's wrong to do this because it takes this level of incompetence around you and this level of reaction by certain fans for long enough and them being loud enough. I get it. We are people. And just because you get paid a lot of money to play the sport, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to feel an insane amount of pressure, an insane amount of frustration when there are stories and stories of bullshit getting written by others and saying nasty things. And listen, I'm not afraid to say this because he's a colleague of mine, but you got a columnist in Marcus Hayes going after one of his family members who lost their lives and comparing that to the way that he approaches the game of basketball. And there are people who are defending Marcus Hayes saying he did no wrong. And I'm supposed to believe that there haven't been any lines crossed in the dissection of the Joel Embiid experience. You can discuss so many things about Embiid, the basketball player, but for some reason, it has reached, wow, you're an asshole for thinking that way about Joel. I'm just saying, that's where it's gone with a lot of fans out there. And I don't know how we got here. I guess it's this. As we workshop this, I think it might be pretty self-explanatory. Joel Embiid is that amazing if he can stay healthy that you're subconsciously so angry you're trying to find reasons on why this is happening. Whoa, it's got to be this. It's got to be that. It's got to be that. This. Or there really is no explanation other than you want him to be superhuman and his bones and meniscus to work in ways that they're just not going to work. Do I like the fact that Tyrese Maxey had to call him out? Absolutely not. I don't think that's the right way a leader should go about his business. I don't think Bryce Harper's a great leader at all. But I think his value is tremendous on the field when healthy to the point where his lack of leadership. That's why we talk about Schwarber the way we do. That's why we talk about Reese the way that we do. But he still brings so much when he is doing his thing on the field that's a flaw within the Bryce Harper experience, but I'll live with it any day of the week. Same applies with Embiid. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that he's late and he's not communicating with teammates and this and that. I don't like that. Do I think he's a bum and a fraud and a loser and a joke? Tell me more about Allen Iverson. Tell me more about the way Allen Iverson went about his craft. Was he at practice doing his thing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He did not give it his all. He's beloved. Charles Barkley never won here. He's not a loser. He's not a fraud. He's not pathetic. I don't understand why it gets applied to the intense, aggressive nature that it does for him. Is it just social media now? Where everybody has a voice, so you can be a total jerk off and hide behind the keyboard, so you're constantly getting flooded with hate and hate and hate and hate and nonstop over and over and over and over. I can only imagine. Listen, I give my sports opinion for my job, okay? And the amount of times I am called ruthless things is insane. Now multiply that by 50 billion, and then that's Joel Embiid on a day-to-day basis. I get it. But if you don't see why there is the love and the, hey, Joel, we stand with you crowd, After listening to the way that he has a difficult time with trust, after listening to the story with the physical trainer who was with him forever and getting calls at 2:30 in the morning, and she's saying, yo, listen, Joel, you don't have to do this. You don't look like you can do this. And then Joel eventually has a split with her, and he feels that she abandoned him, and those type of things based off of his upbringing and based off of some things that happened in his life. It's hard to not sympathize with that, but at the same time, you got to realize she's not abandoning you, and that's where some of the maturity stuff of his group chat and the communication, the lack thereof, and not reading his text messages and still focusing on who was the leak with the Tyrese Maxey story last year, and that still being an emphasis, and that still being a focus, and that still taking up time in your brain, and that eating you alive, and not being able to shake that, and the person still being in the locker room, and now you don't want to show up to any more meetings because of it, and those type of things. Yeah, it's not great. I won't defend that. It's not good. But if we're going to make the pros and cons list, the list of pros with Joel, healthy, is 75 times longer than the other side of it. But you wouldn't think that based off of the reaction. And keep in mind, I'm a guy that is willing to admit that it may just have run its course. And I do think that this is a first sign of a potential breakup. Now, truth be told, it's going to be so hard, it's going to be extremely difficult, and maybe even nearly impossible. But the only reason why you do this, other than defending your own image, is you're airing out the dirty laundry because enough is enough. And I almost wonder if he wants it so publicly known to the league that I'm not thrilled here anymore. Look at the way the Sixers have handled this since 2014, since early stages of my tenure. This is a flat-out disaster. And it's so incompetent. Save me. Was this a call for help? And maybe it's just one of those things where it's best for both parties. You're not going to get crazy compensation back in return or personnel back in return that's going to wow you, but it could be something where it's addition by subtraction just because it's a different energy shift and it's a different focus moving forward. And it's a total different brand of basketball. Not because Joel Embiid is a stiff and a loser and I want nothing to do with him. But you only go this route if you are walking out the door in a way. Or it's him saying, this is how I feel. This is how devastated I am. That I'm going to go public with a 980-page piece that will wow you and it will be very in-depth. I'm airing it out. But there's only one place to go from here, fucker. There's only one way to go from here. Because we have this deal intact. My risk of injury is legit, and nobody's going to want to take a flyer on it. I'm devastated. I'm disappointed. But now that we have a fresh, clean slate, you hear me out. You heard me. Maybe he was trying to express this stuff and not a damn soul was willing to open up their ears. No one was willing to listen. So to get to the Sixers, this is what he deemed reasonable. How about that as a potential move by Embiid? And if that's the case, I actually like that the most. Forget the image. Forget trying to prove to people he's a certain way. Forget trying to get a call for help and it's so desperate that you're trying to reach a different city. My favorite hypothetical of them all as we workshop through it is, this is to get to Joshua Harris. This is to get to Daryl Morey. This is to get to the Sixers organization that we need to clean shit up. We need to get our head out of our asses and get on the right tracks. Maybe that's wishful thinking. It probably isn't that. That's best case scenario in my eyes. But it's a strange position to be in. It's wild. Now take a listen. This was on ESPN of Bobby.
Whoops, sorry. No turning.
Whoops. Of Bobby Marks talking about the relationship between the Sixers and the big man.
This partnership between Philadelphia and Joel Embiid, there's no turning back, right? Like, they've got to make this work, certainly from the Embiid health perspective here. And I remember last September when Joel Embiid had 2 years left on his contract and he wound up signing that 3-year max extension. And that drew a lot of ire across the league. Why would Philadelphia commit another 3 years to a player that certainly is an MVP candidate, but it certainly has been injury related? And here you look at it. There's 4 years, $242 million. Malika, the last year of that contract is $69 million. That is the danger zone of contracts. So for both sides, they've got to make it work here, for better or worse.
They do have to make it work. The question is, can they and will they? And you bring up, they got to figure out the health side of it. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know. Now, Joel Embiid is taking the stance that he's never really been able to move the way he wants to move. And because of that, he's taking his own route this time around. Whether the Sixers agree or not, this is what he plans to do. And maybe he's right to do that. I mean, there's been many different stories of them bashing heads on what's exactly going on here. The Sixers feel he's okay and he's all right, and Joel Embiid's going, what are you saying? What are you doing? I've had 75 different meniscus surgeries. I had my face broken billions of times. I needed surgery on both of my hands, and you're seriously going to look me in the face and say that I'm making this up? That I'm not willing to go out there and compete? That I'm just mailing it in? Do you see what I do to try and get back on the floor for that Knicks series? And it's funny, so many of you say that he doesn't care. If he didn't care, then why would he put his body on the line again in the Olympics right after the Knicks series? Now, from a Sixers fan view, of course I don't want to watch him play in the Olympics right after all the physical stuff that went down with the Knicks and the meniscus and all that. Of course I don't want to see him do that because I want him right for the Sixers. But we're acting as if an athlete playing in the Olympics makes him a garbage human. Do you see the issue? We could disagree, but how do you go from he doesn't care, he doesn't give a damn, he's not a competitor, he always gives up, and he doesn't give it his all, to then saving Team USA for a chance to win the gold? Without him, you don't win the gold. So he doesn't care, yet he's now playing more hoops in the Olympics, and his greatness pushes Team USA to a point where they can go win a gold championship. That doesn't align. That's very contradicting. I don't know if you can fix the health, though, to circle back to that audio. The contract extension, why? That's a great question. Daryl Morey has tried to preface it a bunch by describing the importance of locking up great players. But you got to keep in mind that this isn't just a standard situation because of how much he breaks down. But I guess the way to fix it is let Joel Embiid go through the course that he elects this time around. And it may be an ugly regular season. It may be a minuscule amount of regular season games super early on. It may be games without him throughout October, November, December, as there hasn't been much on the physical activity side of things right now with the basketball activity. It's been quiet on that front. And maybe he's just looking at it as, let me get 30 regular season games to end the year. Let me do what I need to do with my meniscus and my knees. And we'll see how a back half push goes. And that's what I got right now. And that's going to put us in the best case scenario. Because I don't think there's fixing the knees. There's no time. There's no surgery. They did all that. They went to all the doctors. They tried different things. They heard people out. I don't think there's fixing. I think there's so much damage done. It is where it is. And you got to try and manage to maximize where it is. And I guess at this point, I'm willing to trust Joel Embiid's camp with this moving forward compared to anything on the Sixers front. I don't trust the Sixers a lick with this. What else is bothering me about this whole conversation? The fact that he gets bashed for wanting to win MVP. You think SGA wanted to win MVP? Do you think he cared to win MVP? Yes. Winning the MVP aligns with your goal of winning a championship. It coexists. If it was the You Suck award and Joel Embiid had to suck for 60-something games to be somehow, announced as the You Suck award guy, and that pushed the Sixers away from their ultimate goal of winning a championship, then I could understand the beef. Hey, I hate to break it to you. Having the mindset of wanting to be the best player in the NBA and that being a goal that you check off your list on your way to trying to pursue a championship, I got no issue with that. Yet, if he wasn't pursuing the MVP and he sat down and rested, you'd say he's a loser. He's a loser. He doesn't want to play. He's a loser. He's mailing it in. He doesn't care. He's a loser. So he's a loser if he wants to get it, and he's a loser if he sits and load manages. The guy can't win. So it makes sense for him to have this type of piece come out because he can't win. We'll continue talking about this more, of course. I have more audio for you. Let me tell you about a real winner, though. That's Green Lawn Fertilizing. They are the best on planet Earth. They are the greatest of all time. Based in the Philadelphia area and best in the market. Experts in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. They are so knowledgeable, it's not even funny. Green Lawn Fertilizing has created their own custom blend that will help your lawn recover. It is the best decision I ever made in my life is working with the experts. They've educated me and my wife on everything, on the treatment plan, when they're coming to my house, what they're doing when they stop, what this treatment does, how it sets up the future treatment. It's going to kill the weeds. It's going to, be the next step before we get the nice, luscious green lawn coming up after we kill the weeds. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And when I wake up every morning and I see the front lawn, when I wake up every morning and I allow my dogs to run out back, nothing makes me happier than knowing my lawn is in great hands. Because unfortunately, when I was in control and when I was the one trying to do it myself and I was DIYing, it was a mess. It was chaos. It was the Sixers front office. So that's what it was. It was equivalent if the Sixers were trying to do my lawn. It was hot garbage. Well, I went to Michael Jordan. Green Lawn Fertilizing. You should too. Make sure you check the link out down below. When you sign up with my link, you will get 50% off your first 2 treatments. That's 50% off your first 2 treatments. It will change your life. It'll change the personality of your home. Do not be a fool and join the Green Lawn Fertilizing family today. Okay, so I actually want to insert a clip here of me freaking out on a caller for not knowing a damn thing. So enjoy this 3-minute or so exchange.
So I hear all these arguments you're putting up, and you keep bringing up, like, the human side.
Yes.
And so I was thinking about that because I wanted to come at you with quitting against the Celtics.
Well, so if you lose a basketball game, that means you quit or you lost the basketball game?
Brodes, but we all have eyes, right?
Yes.
He gave up.
No. He didn't get the. James Harden was the facilitator, and they had. James Harden was the facilitator, and he had. If you remember, Game 6 at home, they had about 75 wide open threes that DeAnthony Melton continued to just miss, clank, wide open. DeAnthony Melton, wide open three. The offense wasn't even being ran through Embiid, and James Harden was the one facilitating as the guard.
Brodes, I'm glad you brought that up. It wasn't even being ran through Embiid.
Yes.
He was the MVP.
Okay, so then get mad at Doc Rivers.
The ball.
But the team, you got to think from a team. Mark, the team had wide open. Mark, listen to me. The team had wide open threes consistently running what they were running. In the NBA playoffs, you are going to need a starting 2 guard in DeAnthony Melton, whether you like to admit it or not. shot to hit wide open threes in the NBA half-court offense. That needs to happen. That's an effective shot in an NBA half-court offense. You have to drill that. And that's the way they were built that year. So you could be mad at roster construction, but in the NBA, wide open looks from your starting two guard needs to get drilled. It needs to get drilled.
Okay. All right. How did the Thunder win the finals this year?
They had depth.
How did they win? They
had
relied
depth
on their star.
No. You watched the NBA finals this year, and you said
I did.
And you don't think that having deep rosters, you don't think that having deep rosters and effective 1 through 9 is why these teams were able to do it?
Embiid has had deep rosters, and early in his career,
they've been running 6 guys. Shake Milton was their 6th man. Mark, are you dumb? Shake Milton sucks. He was their 6th man. Shake Milton blows. What deep rosters are you talking about?
Control your weight, and you don't come in the.
Gregory and Philly, you're on WIP. I just don't understand that way of thinking, that you watch NBA basketball and you see some of these other teams and your takeaway is as simple as Joel Embiid is causing you to never win ever without factoring in the other details of the failures. This is the truth of the Sixers. With how much their downfall has hit, and it's hit hard, you really think one man's fault? Or one man is taking the hit at a high percent? Like, maybe it's not just Joel Embiid's fault, but Joel Embiid's 90%, and then Ben and Harris, and Joshua Harris, that is, not Tobias, but the Tobias Harris contract, and Elton Brand and Daryl Morey, all of them collectively make up 10% or 15%, and Embiid takes up 80, 85%, 90%. You think it's that level of distribution? No. You don't have this gross level of downfall without it being the stickiest, nastiest, most dysfunctional slop there is behind the scenes. And that's where it starts. Joel Embiid is almost the face of it because of the process and being trademarked as the process and the trolling and all that stuff. And look, he's opened the door to some of the criticism because of the way that he acts, more so earlier in his career with the social media and the DX hip thrust and all that stuff. So he does open up a can of worms, and he's not perfect by any means, but I just think it's emphasized so aggressively, the bad parts of him, that he is now being dehumanized. And I sympathize with that. I do. I think it's absurd. I think we've reached a point where it's gotten outrageous. And I'm very opinionated. I think it's fair to be opinionated. I think it's okay to have basketball opinions. I think it's okay to question certain things off the floor with athletes too. I don't think it's crazy to bring up aspects of an athlete that isn't just field work. It's film study. It's weight room. It's a lot of stuff. You can do that. Priorities. You can do that. But if you really look through the Joel Embiid experience, my takeaway is people assume that he's not putting in the time physically because physically it's not working out. I don't get that sense. I get this guy is doing everything in his power to try and stay upright because you can tell how bothered he is by the noise. He's doing everything to shut them down, including putting out a super long piece on ESPN. He wants to drain out and silence the noise by showing his dominance. We're looking for reasons why it hasn't worked, when the truth is there's no other explanation other than he's someone who gets hurt a lot. For example, Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. Perfect to bring this up because the Phillies are always tied to him at the trade deadline, and he can never play 100 games. He barely plays 100 games. He's a phenomenal talent, and he's just a baseball player that can't ever be healthy. Is he doing something wrong? Is he lazy? Is he a loser? Is he pathetic? Or is his body just not allowing for him to do it. And I got to push back up. Well, how come Jokic? Well, hold on. Two people can do the same thing over and over again from a basketball standpoint, and one body's going to react different than another body. And first off, you want to talk about out of shape. If you watched Jokic play every day, this town would say, look at this out of shape loser. He scored 37. He could have scored 50 if he laid off the burgers. Same with Doncic. So you bring up Jokic, who is a phenomenal talent, obviously. But talk about taking care of your body. His body just doesn't break the way Embiid. I think Embiid takes care of his body more than Jokic does, and Jokic's body isn't breaking down, and Embiid's is, because his body's just not allowing him to do it. I think it's that simple. I do. All right, let's go to Kendrick Perkins, who talked about the state of the Sixers and called out the Sixers in a way.
When you think about this situation, at one point we was looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, and at one point we saw structure, we saw stability, we saw culture. And then all of a sudden, since Daryl Morey has taken over this job, it's gotten worse. Since he's taken over this organization, it's got worse. Let's be real here. And now all of a sudden you're looking at your franchise guy, well, one of your franchise guys, your players, not being able to start the season next year in Joel Embiid, because he's telling us right now that his body is not right, which we already know. Paul George just underwent a procedure. Now you look at your next guy in a diamond in the rough that you found in Tyrese Maxey, and the Philadelphia 76ers are on the clock. They're on the clock when it comes down to Tyrese Maxey. And when I say on the clock, because if they keep trending in this direction of no culture and no stability, guess what? Tyrese Maxey is going to want out of Philadelphia, okay? And we know who his agent is Rich Paul. And Rich Paul don't give a damn. I'm telling you this is something that I know. And so when you think about the 76ers and Daryl Morey, they got to get it together right now, because you understand you're dealing with Joel Embiid, but your franchise guy who you got late in the second round, 5 or 6 years ago, is Tyrese Maxey. You got to make sure that he's healthy.
All right, so it obviously wasn't a late second-round pick, and I wouldn't call him a diamond in the rough. He did play at Kentucky. We just sort of got lucky because the COVID year didn't allow for the NCAA tournament, so on the biggest stage, he wasn't shining the way he probably would have shined. But, wow, I mean, listen, the way he's implying this, it's almost as if Rich Paul, Tyrese Maxey, if this is going to continue to trend with this chaos, get me out of here when I can. Now, I don't think we're at that point. I think it probably becomes the Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, VJ Edgecombe show, with Paul George and Joel Embiid not being as much of a factor before we ever get a Tyrese Maxey demanding out of town type of thing, because I think he is sort of looked at as that next wave and the face of it, and McCain and VJ sort of playing second team to Tyrese Maxey being the face of the Philadelphia 76ers, and I think him and Rich Paul sense that, and I'm sure Rich Paul is dealing with a lot of crap with LeBron and some other stuff going on, and I don't think we're at the point of that, but it is a wrinkle to add in there that, all right, how does Tyrese Maxey feel? He's already clearly disappointed in Joel to the point where we had to call him out. Now, I think him and Joel like each other. I do. I don't think Tyrese Maxey hates Joel Embiid because there was a disagreement on showing up and things of that nature. I don't. Everyone says about James Harden and the type of guy he is, yet I think Tyrese Maxey is as great as he is because of his learning and ability to soak up the knowledge of James Harden, and he took control of that and was sort of looking at the greatness of what he provides to install that into his own game. And I think there's things that he takes from Joel Embiid that he installs into his own game, because he does appreciate the greatness and the skill level and how phenomenal he is. And there's a lot of that Tyrese Maxey understands and is willing to soak up. And I think they have a fine relationship. But I don't know. I mean, is there an element of Rich Paul and Tyrese Maxey at some point just getting fed up with it? That's the first time I thought about it to that level. And with Kendrick Perkins saying, hey, I know. No, I don't know if Kendrick Perkins knows. He did get the Tyrese Maxey second-round draft pick wrong. But that's a little eye-opening. I'm just putting that in the back of the head, I guess, more than anything else. All right. With that, I guess we'll shut it down. Just a shame that we're here. It's a shame that we're here. All right. I hope Sixers basketball can get back to fun stuff, man. I don't want to be talking about Eric Gordon tweeting at people. I don't want to talk about Embiid's article. I don't want to talk about Paul George's surgery. I don't want to talk about demanding my team getting back and us not having apathy anymore. I just want to talk real basketball. And you could be thinking, Brodes, you can. Just do it. Yeah, but I can't ignore reality when I do it. Of course, I could technically just block it all out and talk about Summer League and what VJ Edgecombe did on the floor and talk about a few possessions that I liked. But that's ignoring the truth. And what I'm not going to do is ignore the real story here, okay? I can't pretend that there's not a burning fire going on. What's that gif of the it's fine, I'm fine with the coffee mug or the kids swinging on the swing, but the whole city's burning behind them? I'm not going to do that. I got half a brain. You know what I mean? All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I greatly appreciate it. I will talk to you all on the next one.